this is like having Ronnie and Reggie turn up. It is absolutely terrifying. This is a fierce industry that is always moving forward. Why shouldn't we talk about punters? It's a battle. I think it's an absolute absurdity. It's one rule for one and another rule for another. If you do specialise and you are obsessed in that specialisation, you will make it pay.
Okay, so first of all, Ben, thanks a lot for agreeing to this call. I really appreciate it. You are an industry name, person of influence and notorious food blogger over on Twitter, for those that have seen it.
Notorious? What's notorious about it? Now, Caan, can I start off by saying thank you very, very much for inviting me onto your show. And I think that you are a really positive example now, right, of how the game is so vast, right? There's so many opportunities for people to do things, you know, whether it be as a punter, a bookmaker, all the different ways of skinning the cat as a punter. But, you know, you've come in and you've created your edge in doing your seminars, sharing what you learn with others. And I think that what you do, and there's not enough people who do it, is, you know, you're a welcoming person to say, well, what is all this jargon? It's not that complicated. You explain it. And remember something, you're actually doing me a favour as a bookmaker, because you are educating, you're bringing people in and welcoming them. And then, you know, they're not just betting on the stuff that you advise and your way of doing it. They then go off in their direction, and some of them come to me. But it's the case that, you know, when you go horse racing, it's a bit, what is all this vocab? Or if you spoke to, let's say you didn't know about gambling and you just sat and listened to you and me talking for 5 minutes, you'd say this is double Dutch. And we need some translators and sort of hospitable people, and you're one of them. So thank you very much.
No, I appreciate that, Ben. I don't think I'll hear another bookie ever say anything like that.
Well, no, but we do need you.
Yeah,
we do need you. And you know, I think at the end of the day is that there are so many different ways to skin the cat. And one thing that I found is that, right, you're a professional gambler. I could see you talking with another professional gambler. And it's so interesting to hear them debate things, because they almost have an argument and say, I completely disagree with you. But then at the end of it, it's a bit like, well, what price do you actually make the favourite? And you'll go, well, da-de-da-de-da, here's my summation, it's a 6-4 chance. They'll go da-de-da-de-da, and at the end of it, they'll go, I make it a 6-4 chance. You both got there, but by a different route.
Totally different ways, yeah. And interestingly, it's a zero-sum game as well. So it doesn't make
This is it. And, yeah, this is it. I mean, you know, and everybody's really, people think that it is all very combative, but the only race is with yourself. Yeah,
course, yeah.
And I think that the point being is that if something works for you, well, that's fine. It's got nothing to do with anyone else.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So just to backtrack a second there, Ben, there might be a few people watching this that haven't come across you before. So can you just briefly give us a minute or two? How did you become the CEO of Star Sports and you know, a fully licensed operation in the UK?
Okay, well, my name's Ben Keith. I'm 41 years of age. I've been going greyhound racing from the age of 12. I was immediately transfixed by it all, the cut and thrust of the ring, and then that was that. I was school bookie, going to the races whenever I could, going to the dogs. It was a sort of blessing and a curse. That's a phrase we all hear in life, you know, but the blessing was that I had that direction. I knew what I wanted to do. The curse was I couldn't do anything else. It's all I know, right? But look, I think that one thing that you will have learned, and we all learn, anybody who makes it pay, is that a vital piece of knowledge is when you know nothing. A little knowledge is is very, very dangerous. And if you do specialise and you are obsessed in that specialisation, you will make it pay. I worked for various bookmakers in my teens. When I left school, I then started working for other bookmakers. I then won 10 grand on a horse school pension fund. The next day, I called one of my childhood friends called Lofty, who I knew from Hove Dogs. I said, we're going to set sail and become bookies. And really, the rest is history. And now Star Sports offer every type of betting. And we actually have our own professional gambling department. So, you know, everything has a price to back. Everything has a price to lay, as you very well know. I think that not in a jack of all way, because the business is of age now, it's matured. Each of the strands and departments of the business play off each other, feed into each other, and actually help each other. And I think that Star Sports is a business that has a lot to offer, but our most valuable asset is our network, because when we meet intelligent people, we can always fit them into something, rather than somebody who says, I am a spread betting bookmaker, or I am a Betfair trader. It's like you can meet some really intelligent people and think, oh, I'd love to do this or that with you, but I don't have that. Star do, so, you know, I can move them off into where they're best suited.
Very interesting. So you've picked up a lot of talent on the way, I guess. That's part of your secret to success, is it?
I think that, Caan, you're a professional gambler. You're a judge of the exchange. Yeah? I think as you go through the gears and you become more successful, if you're a professional gambler, you probably then become a judge of judges. So it's as much about emotional intelligence and looking at somebody and thinking, is this somebody who wins? Of course, that's got to be the first question. But then, is this somebody who wins but then doesn't give those winnings away when it's not going to plan? And is this somebody who will act with my money with integrity? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's very, very interesting, yeah.
This is it. So, I mean, and one thing I would say is that over the years, I've had many. I'm going to turn the tables. Ask you a question, right? So, over the years, I've had many professional gamblers come and work in one of the Star businesses, and it's not because they don't make it pay. It's because they say, I can't. The loneliness and the deep head fuck of those long gaps between trades,
being alone,
play, whatever, or tournaments. They might be a cricket punter or whatever. You know, they get very bored. They get lonely. Maybe they get drawn in to be playing when they shouldn't be. They create bets, which of course is the enemy. Yeah. I think that here's another thing is that I think in a positive way, we become who we want to be. We develop skills, right? But professional gamblers, it is very, very solitary. And sometimes I know that they sit at home and they actually feel that they're losing their social skill.
No, I agree. I think that's very fair. Like, I think you've touched on a lot of things there, but focus is a massive prerequisite to any kind of success, and you have to do that in this game or you just won't make it. But I think that's also a problem that's probably not romanticised and talked about as much because people probably don't want to hear it. But, you know, it is quite acidic. You do end up stuck at home in the numbers, and your social life can pay the price if you're not careful. So that's something I've learned over time. And I was guilty of that, certainly, especially early on. But you come to a point where you're like, well, you know, how much money do you need? And there's no point having a load of money if you turn around and there's nobody there.
No. But I mean, the problem is, of course, is that when I think about what I do for a living now, it's actually much more social than what you do. Because I network. People come in, I meet them, I have coffee, I have dinner with them, whatever, and I then send them off to somebody who manages one of the departments or businesses, and I say, right, this is how I see this person helping, right? Now, really, of course, my brain's always going, I'm always on duty, but my work is pretty much Monday to Friday, and I know what's happening in the office with the big punters over the weekend. But when you've said what you've said there, it's not really true, because when you think about it now, you'll look at an event, right? So you're a big horse racing, let's say that you're trading a cricket match, whatever, right? You know, remember, all of those things happen in the evening or at the weekend. Those are other people's fun and your work. So when you talk about work-life balance, well, I do know what you mean. But if you said I'm not going to work Saturday or Sundays, I'd say, well, but that means you're not a professional gambler anymore.
Well, people say things like that, but I wouldn't say that's completely true. Going back on that, horse racing, there's plenty during the day. So, but I take your point. There's a lot of sport is around antisocial hours. So that is part and parcel. Saturday is obviously a money grab every week, but there comes a point where you have to weigh it up. I mean, a lot of it comes down to how much money you're making and really ultimately what you want out of life. If you can trade 3 days a week and make, I don't know, $2,000 a week or something, I know it's quite low, but if you do that, then that's still $8,000 a month, and you haven't got to give up your whole life to do it, But I think that it's quite easy to go the other end of the spectrum and be obsessive and do all of that and try and make $40,000 a month or something, doing the same thing, and then just trading flat out 6 days a week, which I would say is not healthy.
Yes, I agree with you. Let me ask you a question as a professional gambler and someone who you obviously do meet people because you welcome people in, you do seminars and stuff like that. I mean, you obviously... You are a master of your own destiny. You sit there, you trade all day, your eyes do not leave the screen on an event. Are you going to go in further? Are you going to depart? Are you going to green up? Are you going to go the other way? Your brain's moving all the time. Would you ever trust anybody? Would you ever lose that control and delegate that to someone else to do for you?
No. Just no. No, I wouldn't. And I think that also actually is probably something that you can contribute there. So I think part of the problem for bookmakers is in terms of pricing, and we'll come on to maybe some slightly more testing stuff in a second, but people who have the ability to do a lot of those things, yes, they may get bored, they may end up working for you, but like kind of at the top level, it's more profitable for them to not be working at a bookmaker's, if that makes sense. So...
100%. I mean, that's the thing, is that without doubt. I mean, look, remember also that you have the luxury of everything you earn is tax-free, right?
Well, premium charge.
Well, you know what I mean, right? Yeah, but I mean, I'm saying that. Well, no, you're quite right there. Essentially, I'm not going to even try to employ anybody who says, right, this team is -0.5 in Asia at 197. I'm going to go evens. I mean, like, okay, so you said a minute ago that you would never delegate, right?
No,
now, the difference between you earning a couple of grand a week and the gladiators of your side of the game who earn hundreds of millions a year.
Yeah.
This is it. Is that they delegate to have, not just a weatherman, a weather department, a team news department. They've got teams of stats and IT people and all the rest of it. And a bit like the Betfair prices on a horse race is made up by the paddock judge, the breeding judge, the information man. It all comes to meet in the middle. If you think about a syndicate, all of those brains come to make the 100% price on a football match, and that business will bet round it. Yeah. Well, how on earth can one man who I employ ever overrule the Asian line? I mean, it would be absurd.
No, I agree. Yeah, I agree. I guess I'm also in the back of my head. I'm thinking, like, I'm aware of people that have worked at various firms in the past and they've left because they're obviously aware of various things. So it's guess that there's no perfect answer. It's a back and forth between the two of those points, I guess, depending on what ultimately the person wants for themselves.
Yes, I agree with you, but I think that I'm certainly not going to be gambling on anybody to do that. Yeah. When they've left and 2 years later they haven't gone bankrupt, then we know the truth.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And here's the other thing that we have in common, right? You are a markets man. You trade markets, right?
Yeah.
I don't bet to an opinion. I'm running a business. I'm trying to grow a business, grow betting shops, get more clients, get people to bet on spread betting, get people to bet online, credit on the phone, whatever, right? Essentially, I just say to punters, try and beat the market. I'm never going to go best price. If everyone's 2 something and I go 9 to 4, well, I'm only going to if I'm wrong, I'll get my head chopped off immediately and it will go off at 6 to 4. If I'm right, I can keep pulling it out to 3 and I won't lay it anyway. Yeah. So I'd rather if everyone's 2, I'll let other people go 9 to 4, dwell for a few minutes. If they haven't had their head chopped off, I'll go with them.
Yeah. There's a lot. Yeah.
This is it. So, I think that you as a punter, you work for the market. Me as a bookmaker, I also work for the market, and you wait for the market to go out of line and you say, I'll just have that bit. Yeah. And then a few minutes later you say, I'll sell it back at the market price.
Yeah, it's a lot more like that, yeah, certainly. So one of those things you just mentioned there, Ben, about the, you said, you've got shops, you've been on track, you've got online operation as well now. How has that sort of developed for you, or you've seen that develop, and where do you see that going? Because that's kind of the $1 million question, I guess, right? But where's it going in the future? We've lost FOBTs. There's more online, obviously, with the pandemic. What's the future?
But Caan, I think that, look, when you meet people and when you meet intelligent people, right, and you ask the question, 9 times out of 10, their answer franks what you know, right? Now, you are at 1 with the market on the exchange, right? So when you big players come in, you will recognise their play, won't you? And almost, I imagine in your head, you'll say, right, that's X man, that's A man, he's coming, he always backs this team at this time, and the market might overreact because he's got involved. You'll lay a bit, the market corrects, you sell it back, right? And you move like a dolphin with the wave, and you're at 1 with the market, right? Now, me, when you say, as a bookmaker, remember, this is a fierce industry that is always moving forward. Now, no doubt, if I asked you now, Caan, if you did your business as you did it 3 years ago, how would you be doing? You'd say, I'd be skint. Because I've moved forward, I've learned, I've gone with it, I've seen how
you've got to adapt. You've got to adapt.
Of course, this is it. You adapt every day.
But do you see?
Essentially, if you ask me where I'm going, you're just ahead of the wave as a punter. I'm just ahead of the wave as a bookmaker. That's all I have to do. I keep going every day. I just want to know that I have value. That right across my group, everybody's pushing. I know that the group as every area can't move forward every day, but somewhere across the group of companies we'll move forward, we'll find a deal, we'll find an opportunity, we'll look at things, and exactly the same as you as a punter, when new events come up.
So what you're saying is you're adapting, you're more reactive and adapting rather than trying to look ahead. But do you see? I'm sorry. I mean, in terms of the industry, like the way things are evolving with shops and online, and technology is like a large part of it.
Part of adapting is always trying to learn and listen to others, and I think it's vital, whether you're a bookmaker or a professional gambler, to have young friends, to have friends your age, and to have those old timers. Right now, often I have a full diary of different people who I network and speak with. Right now, I will have a dinner or a coffee with an office junior, and I'll say, "You've come into Star Sports. Is it as you expected?" And I say to an office junior, "What advice do you have for me?" Sometimes they look back at me and they're like, "Well, how can I advise you?" Well, no. You're 20 years old, you're seeing things from a different place with different eyes, younger eyes. I want to know as much what you've got to say as an 80-year-old who says, "Well, Ben, I can see that you're trying to skin the cat this way. Do be aware. Cyril Stein tried that for Ladbrokes 30 years ago. It didn't work.
Yeah, I think that, to be honest, is probably testament to your personal success, Ben, and how you've progressed in what is, or you've already said, is a ruthless industry. To be all seeing and to take that on board from different areas, because I think maybe some of the firms that have it, or firms that I'm aware of, haven't done that so much, and they've probably suffered a little bit because of it. Now, one thing that I did want to ask you about, bundled together, and this is one that I know everyone will be dying for me to ask you, is if we bundle it together, sort of like restrictions, price abuse or bonus abuse, that kind of stuff, palpable errors. How do you see that as a bookmaker, and what would you say to somebody who kind of complains about it, I guess?
I would say that the people who... Okay. When I was a child, my dad was the solicitor, okay? And when I'd run out of reading material in my bedroom, I'd go into his study and he'd have his big rows of red legal books, but he'd have a criminology area, and I used to read about all the different... because he started as a criminal lawyer, all these different incredible stories, and my favourites were the bank robbers. Right? Now, when you read about the bank robbers, they knew every single trick.
Yeah.
They had every single person straightened up, and they knew before the ramifications of what would happen if they got caught doing what. And they had every move and way round each rule.
Yes.
But here's one thing. These legendary bank robbers, there'd be a book about them, and it would be, I robbed 160 post offices, and I even got into the Bank of England in the city, and I escaped with 10 million quid. I did a zillion different tricks to do so, but I'm absolutely disgusted. A copper once wrote a statement wrong about me once, and it got me banged up.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, the people who scream loudest about I'm cut back, I'm this, I'm that, those are the same people who are staring at a bookmaker, waiting for the feed to go down, or waiting for the derivative markets to be the wrong way round, as in the home team goes to the away corners, whatever bullshit, right? They're straight in. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then as soon as the bet weighs in, withdraw, right?
Yeah.
The moment anybody stands in their way and says, excuse me, no, stop. Yeah, they scream blue murder. So I would say that the biggest sinners scream the loudest.
Okay, so you say they're sinners then? Because, I mean, from a slightly alternative perspective, when I first come into this, I didn't come from a gambling background. I first come across it, I'd look at the Racing Post, I would read the advice that they've got for me on whatever channel and stuff like that, and I'd be looking to beat the bookmaker, but I wasn't told before that, if you do win, you might be restricted, or we're not going to, we're going to want we'll come on to affordability and stuff in a minute maybe, but do you get what I'm saying? It was kind of, I feel almost as though I was lied to, and it was false advertising. It was like, you can come and win, but then if you do win...
Caan, I'm going to answer that question.
Yeah.
I'm going to answer that question. Right, okay. Now,
I think it's great to go these places that people don't always
listen,
do.
Listen, I'm going to answer it very, very clearly. Right, okay. You're going to go right round the industry and interview every single type of person except one, an honest poor man. Right? Okay. Now,
he probably won't come on. Yeah.
This is it. Now, here's the thing, right? When I stand on my pitch at the dogs or the horses, and I look out into the betting ring, I don't see Oxfam volunteers. Right? Mm-hmm. These are people, there's nothing noble going on. They're there to get my money. I'm there to get theirs. Yes. Right? And many punters, if they don't have an edge and they can't find an edge, they will do anything to create an edge. Right? Now, that's not going to be in my favour. Now, when you sit in front of the exchange all day, and at the end of the day, the missus says, how did you do today? You say, I didn't touch the computer once the market was right all day. Right? Right? So when the market's right, you don't say, oh, you're a good chap, the market. You're a real gent. You've got it all right today. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put £500 on to say thank you. Right?
No,
you do what's best. You do what's best for you. Right? Now, when I get my odds right. If I see Carnberry account number 1234 with Star Sports, let's look him up. Right? Okay. When I get my odds right all day, you don't say, Ben, you're a good chap. You're a really good odds compiler. Just to say thank you and well done for getting your odds right. I'm going to have £200 bet to say you're a good man. No, you wait for me to fall. You chop my head off.
I see,
right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you do what's best for you.
Yeah.
And I do what's best for me. You look for weak bookmakers, and I look for weak punters. So, it works both ways. And it's the old phrase that you will hear again and again wherever you go, it takes two to make a bet. Yeah. There's nothing noble going on. There's nothing being produced. It's not nice. It's about money.
There's nothing wrong with calling it that either. I mean, that's what it is. What it is. So that's what it is. And all credit to you for answering it so honestly, because I think that industry wide, a lot of firms or different people. Well, let's not put everyone in the same bracket because not everyone behaves the same. But they wouldn't have gone there or done that. So that's fair.
Right. I'd like to follow up on that.
Yeah.
Okay. Remember something. People talk about competitors. Yeah. As a professional gambler, you can think about competitors. As a bookmaker, I can think about competitors. It's utter nonsense. The cake is enormous.
Yeah.
Like Wembley Stadium, at every corner it has a gate to get into it, so everyone's welcome to enter the market, stay in the market, leave the market, do whatever they want to do in the market. For me as a punter, a bookmaker, there are a zillion punters in the UK. It's part of our culture. When you go to the snooker, all you see is people clicking on their phones, placing a bet. In the light, don't. Right? Wherever you go in the pub, people are talking, I've had a 50 quid on Ronaldo to score first. People go horse racing with thousands of pounds in their pocket, they place bets. Right? Okay. Now, there's plenty of cake to go round as a bookmaker, and I'm delighted to hear other bookmakers are doing well because that means the game is healthy. Right? And all these people who say you can't make it pay in the UK, utter rubbish. It's the best place in the world to be a bookmaker. And when they run off to Australia, when they run off to Italy, when they run off to America, it's not because it's any better there. It's because they're not very good doing what it is here. So, let's go to Promised Land.
So while you're on that, no, that's absolutely brilliant. Fair play on that. So while you're on that, I think because this kind of gels nicely and overlaps with this, there's obviously changes going on. There's more ahead. There has been some affordability stuff. I think maybe some punters they didn't foresee it going how it has a little bit, and maybe they don't.
That's
they don't
a shame, isn't it?
Well, maybe they don't.
This is it, and they got what they deserve. They got exactly what they deserve.
But,
they all thought it was a legalised bog party.
Yeah.
They thought it was later lose party. They thought it was no accounts getting closed, and all those punter sympathisers who've never had a bet and never taken a bet and they're never going to, they pulled all the punters in with all the promises. It's all in your benefit. Guess what? The gambling review's coming. It's got nothing to do with bog, nothing to do with later lose. And a gentleman like yourself, you've earned your money, you want to have a bet, there's a huge steward's inquiry. Guess what? The bookie does what's best for him. He uses it against you, doesn't he? Just like you use your knowledge against me. Hang on. And all you punters who cried for a gambling review, you got what you wanted.
Well, I think there's a mixture of people out there.
It's not in your favour. Not in your favour.
There is a mixture of people out there, and I think there's maybe some middle ground on some of it, because you might have seen some of the football index stuff that happened a little while back. Obviously, a lot of money's disappeared there, and I tried to be quite honest and sort of flag some of the concerns. Obviously, I got some exposure as well for doing that, but to me, it was I become quite clear through that process of that happening that there is actually a segment of people. It's almost like they just want to ban everything, and they were kind of like chasing the ambulance, as it were. In fact, there was a couple of like mainstream journalists. I won't name anyone, but I sent them various information saying this is a massive concern. I don't want this happening and affecting the gambling review and people like myself and yourself. And they weren't interested, and then lo and behold, 3 months later, they're writing, breaking news headlines. So I think we've got.
Is that because they were doing what was best for themselves?
Indeed. So everybody does do what's best for themselves. Of course they will. Of course they will.
I can't believe they did what was best for themselves.
No, of course they will.
Unbelievable.
Of course
we should have that. We were saying that that miracle finding that we found about humanity, that everyone does what's best for themselves.
Of course they do. So do you think that it's right that the sort of like the Gambling Commission put the bookies in charge of actually doing the affordability checks and stuff, or do you think it should be independent? Because I'm not saying you at Star Sports, I have no idea, I haven't even opened an account with you, but some of them seem to use it, like they take it too far, let's put it that way.
Yeah, okay, but the point being is I'm very sorry, right? Everybody likes to criticise everyone else in the game when they have absolutely no knowledge of that area, right? Now, the biggest haters of the Gambling Commission are people who have never, ever attended a Gambling Commission visit in a bookmaker's office. If you would like to come and sit in the background of a Gambling Commission visit, this is like having Ronnie and Reggie turn up. It is absolutely terrifying. They will go through everything. Yeah. Remember with the Gambling Commission also, you can call them and say, is this the correct way to do the checks and stuff? They do not answer. Yeah. They say, you must do the sufficient checks. You say, what is the sufficient checks? They say, you must do the sufficient checks. Right? Now, essentially, yes, of course, it's a dirty industry. People will use that against you. That Carnberry, right, okay, professional gambler, this guy's won 20 or 30 grand off us. Send us the bank statements over. Yeah. Because we want to see who you're doing business with. Who are you mates
I know,
with?
And that's the issue, really, because that's quite frustrating. Like I say, that's frustrating. I never would have started if I knew I couldn't win in the beginning. Do you see what I mean, though?
Yeah, but you can win. Because you're clever and you know how to, and you can beat any system like we all can. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Certainly.
Here's the other thing. The biggest criers about GDPR and a bookie spoke to another bookie and they knew I was a winner or something. Yeah. I've never heard such a load of rubbish in my entire life. I mean, punters all day long, they're texting each other saying, I found a move with this bookie, this betting shop manager's weak, I've got an edge here. Why shouldn't we talk about punters? It's a battle. I think it's an absolute absurdity. It's one rule for one and another rule for another. And now what's happened though is that by journalists and punter sympathisers and people who want to get themselves consultancy money to save the punter and all this nonsense, right? They fizz it up and they've given Joe Punter such a sense of entitlement that before he speaks to a bookmaker, the bookmaker is scum, and everything he does is wrong, and I'm up on a cross and I'm being treated so unfairly by my bookmaker. Utter rubbish.
No, I agree, and I absolutely hate that. I think that's partly a cultural thing as well in the UK, or the way it's gone, or is going to this entitlement rubbish, because it is rubbish as well. Yes. But it's interesting just to hear the alternative perspective of, obviously it's something that gets you going a little bit there as well. But
you've got to remember that I spend a fortune, right? No, 1 second, on employing all these compliance type people who essentially are standing in the way of my clients having a bet, and I have to go. Yeah,
thanks for the privilege.
Thanks for closing his account, right? And it's like, I pay their money every week to stand in punters. Are you all right? Are you feeling okay? Have you had enough bets today? Can I see the bank statement for the 29th time? Can I stand in your way again? Yeah. I have to pay for that.
Yeah, no, I'm not. Well, I mean, I sympathise with that, but it would be good for people to be aware of, to bring it to the fore more of these things, because it's part of the issue too, really. So, where were we? So, aside from that, it's just kind of like it's part of the industry. But the other thing I was going to mention is kind of like the censorship kind of stuff, because it's a very controlled industry, the way everything is. How do you experience problems with stuff like that? Like, I mean, you say about customers there, you've got to pay people to go through their accounts repetitively. And that's an odds for you, but outside of the customer element and more towards, I'm thinking like towards the media and stuff like that. That seems very loaded too. And how does that work for you?
you got to remember that, look, I'm very, very grateful for everything that Star Sports gives me. But, you know, I'm not Paddy Power. I'm not advertising before England v Scotland. So that would affect them more than me. Here's the other thing. It's that I think that in my adverts, I'm not saying 19 free bets an hour, come and have a go on the casino, stuff like that. I think that when you come to, let's be honest about it, you do the favour for the industry where you bring someone in.
Yeah.
Their first betting account is probably going to be with Ladbrokes, William Hill, Coral, Paddy Power, Sky Bet, whoever, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right? When they get buggered about by them and they're just a bit too low margin, so they're half educated, they've got a little bit of knowledge, they then come to me. So it's not like I'm sort of pulling anybody into the water. Do you know what I mean?
No, I feel your pain. I understand exactly what you're saying there. I feel your pain on that one. And I guess that's probably where a lot of the frustrations, from my personal perspective, I mean, like I said, I haven't got an account with you. I did have a quick look at your website and I couldn't see anything there like that. But a lot of these bigger brands and stuff, they're kind of like, you know, buy players for players because you can win and you could be the professor. And quite frankly, it's bullshit, because as soon as you start being the professor, 50p bet, like, you know, and that's just the alternate side of it. So one last question then before we wind up, Ben. Going forward, what do you wish for the industry in the next sort of few years? Is there, if there was one thing that you would really wish for that may not even happen, what would you like?
I think that a man who is doing great good that we should all be behind is Josh Apiafi. I think that we live now in a very much multicultural society, right? I think that we must be less snobby. These people who say, "Oh, I went to the races the other day and everybody was pissed and all." Well, all right, pay an extra 20 quid, go in members. Yeah. Don't be tight, yeah? Now, and it's a bit like he's working very, very much on diversity, and I think that you are working. I'm very grateful to you for welcoming young people, yeah? Because those are my punters of the future. But I think that we should all be behind Josh Apiafi and his efforts in terms of diversification and bringing all diversify.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, yeah.
He's doing a great job there. Here's another thing that should be remembered about Josh Apiafi. This is a very, very important thing. It's very easy to look at, say, what Josh is doing and be cynical and say, you are promoting yourself by playing the race card. That is not true with Josh Apiafi in any way at all, because he is a very, very successful businessman. So he's doing that for the game. He's not doing it to push himself to the front. So I would say that in the next decade, we should all be behind the likes of Josh Apiafi.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for your time, Ben. I really appreciate it. It's interesting to get the alternative perspective, and I think it's important to get that out there. And it's nice that somebody's willing to share that. Yeah.
And thank you very much again for inviting me on and everything you do to educate people in a friendly way. And if I can ever help, or Star Sports can help, only be in touch.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ben. I appreciate it.